here we are, playing some Path of Titans, starting out as stego. Gotta do questing, of course. Flower quest. Just as a baby stego doesn't have the worst stamina. There's a lot of people right here. God damn. Probably because it's Young Grove. This is usually one of the more popular spots on the map. I don't need too many more flowers. There's definitely enough here. There's the shellfish quest, which is kind of annoying. Let's try to get back some stamina a little bit. Alright. I'm just figuring something out. Whoa. I just remembered something. There we go. Oh yeah, there is the Hunting Waystone quest here. Forgot about that. I don't think I'm going to do this not this home tier, this Waystone, because this Waystone's quite annoying to actually get to. Just because you have to swim for it. There we go. That's right, I remember that I have backers in stego. There we go. These tronches are still hanging around here. Let's say they are quite noisy. I wonder if this is enough time. Actually, this is definitely enough time to stay this quest done. It's a baby aloe. I'm just looking for a food bush. I haven't spotted one yet. You know what? I'm gonna try and get the Waystone quest. I don't really have anything to lose if I go for it, except that tiny bit of growth and for like 60 marks if I had to guess. So it's not really a big deal. Even though I don't have that much stamina as stego in the water, it doesn't really matter because stego has enough oxygen to actually make it mostly. Yeah, I'm already out of stamina, but it's gonna take me a while to run out of oxygen. It's really down faster than I thought, but not that big a deal. A little baby's fine now. Hmm. How many times are you gonna get hit in the face before you give up, huh? They landed one body shot. Ooh. So now I expect the conqueror to come over. I'm just not gonna smack the spider because I know that there's just no point in smacking him. I want to stay on the compass druid side so it doesn't decide to kill me, if at all possible. And right back across I go. Yeah, that quest still gives the growth immediately, but it doesn't give the marks immediately. For young growth, it's been kind of peaceful, which is nice. Just try to get back across the water and I'm fine, for the most part. I like Stego's little generic call, just a grunt or a growl. Little noise of acknowledgement, which I like. Here's some food for you. I think the baby Tonto is just trying to scare that baby Panther. Yeah, so it's like. I'm just not gonna bother messing around because I know I don't stand a chance to use that conca. Yeah, just gonna go to the waystone, might as well. Actually, the waystone is actually right on the way to where my local quest is. Not my local, my location quest is. That's good. Stego was actually the backer skin I picked when I first got the game because there were quite a few of the dinos that didn't have their backer skin on the list yet. Like Tenshaw and Spino and Stego was the one that I liked most. I debated between Stego and Suka for a bit, but I picked Stego. And that was before Stego had this model. Right when Stego had this model, I didn't care for the backer skin too much because I felt the toys had changed. But backer Stego is one of my favorite skins right now. Well, one of my favorite Stego skins. I like backer, I like patterned, I like line, I like lined, these colors. Brown can be like that. Lots of Stego skins are just really good. A couple of them I don't care for too much, but that's mostly based on the color. Just like quite a few of them are kind of muted or boring. I also definitely should have picked Stego. I probably should have picked Speed Stego, but I picked Balanced. Well, there's nothing happening. Might as well get some stamina. You can see a little bit of the back machine fading through, I think. You can see the head pattern starting to fade in. I think a little bit of the body color. And there we go. Nothing. Really? Okay. So swing for 700, which is charge attack. So that doesn't have anything in senses or backlimb or voice. Legs, I know it has pivot, and I think it has burly too. Hide, it has three. One of them is solar powered, which is standard region in the day. Then it's got resilient and tough streets. Resilient is venom and blue resist, and tough streets is armor. And of course, it's got that other metabolism. Okay, now we're going to Wilderness Peak. I think I can just go right here. Right. Oh, Small alia. Not that small, but still small. Stego appears to be having some climbing issues. Gotta waddle up sideways then. There we go. I didn't realize that they had a reworked wilderness peak in the last patch. I thought that I knew that there's a lot of stuff on the center of the map, but apparently they reworked this part too, which is interesting. Now that they have to do is do something about greater. It's dotted. The only quest item that isn't right here is succulents, so hopefully this won't be too bad, and hopefully I won't get them for a little bit. Rocks. So yeah, I forgot about rocks being in this area. Gee, there's rocks right over here. Alright, need one more rocks. There we go. Don't need too many more. Don't need too many requests to get enough for the charge tail. I'm going for the charge tail right now because it's the only attack that I can really purchase. It's the only ability I can really purchase that does anything. Because I can only purchase 2 abilities. Something. Yeah, charge tail swing is the only attack that I can buy, and one of only 2 abilities. One of only 2 abilities that I can actually purchase right now, the other one being a diet that's almost double the price. So just overall not worthwhile. These respawn fast. There we go. Branches. I know there's some back here. Okay, so that's half the piles that I need. I'll try to get some stamina back. Stego doesn't even trot that slow. Actually has a really good trot, which is good considering it doesn't have that fast of a sprint and it has pretty low stamina. Okay, that's decent stamina back. I went the wrong way. I just now realized that. It's gonna be a lot slower going back out. Where am I going? Where am I walking? Brain, where are you telling me to go, huh? And how do I get down there? I decided to go this way. Oh, you can see the red from the back just starting to fade into my plates a little bit. Subtle, but you can see it kinda. And this one is fading really early. It's not even halfway through adolescent. You can already see it pretty well. Not pretty well, but you can already see it a little bit. I do know that there is water somewhere on this part of the map. I just don't remember where. I've only been here like once or twice since the update. At least there's enough branches here to get the quest done. Oh, no milk cap mushroom quest, huh? You know there's milk cap mushrooms right there. Uh, there's the water, okay. I think I'm gonna go to Triad Falls from here, which is just south. 35 more marks for that tail swing. I hear something. Once you get some stamina. To me, that sounded like a Rex or probably a duck. And we got the annoying quest. I just consider Gifts from the Sea annoying because it takes so long. Just because turtle shells spawn in groups of one. They're super sparse. I learned some tips about stego from someone else on YouTube. Stego, you want to make sure that you keep some stam, if at all possible. And a stego you want to use terrain to your advantage more so than a lot of stuff. Stego is very good at uh, trading tail hits for face hits because of the way that its tail works. Unlike Tensho, Stego's tail actually does a good amount of raw damage because it's quite large. And unlike Anno, its tail is actually very consistent for hitbox. It has long reach too. You can just run around rocks or trees or over logs and stuff. The Stego also has a very thin sides on its hitbox, so it makes it a lot easier to just trying to walk by stuff. So that's another combo. They're fast. Might be the same one. That content's already at a render distance. I do hear something stomping. I don't know what it is though. I'm going to need food soon too. Oh, little baby Rex. Noisy little baby Rex. That Rex can't be much more grown than I am. Yet it's got very loud footsteps despite being small. Right here. Oh, it's back across the river, okay. Probably gonna switch off a stego soon. It's just this quest kinda sucks and I don't feel like dealing with it. So yeah, that's what we'll do. Yeah, I am aware that I could be picking up stuff for the quest, but it's just, you know, not worth it. Horse to the home cave. Just gotta get some stamina before I go any closer. Stego actually has pretty good stamina regen now. Won't be that long. Where's the entrance to this home cave? It should be like right down in here, right? Here it is, okay. Right, here we go. And just log out really quick there. Start my sarco again. Find location, grand plans, no. I do have that unlocked, okay. I still haven't gone to a home cave as this sarco. That's the first one. I lost this to where I am. I don't know why the local quest stuff isn't popping up. Good fish. Alright, yeah, my brain. It's melting. Oh, I'm gonna move away from White Cliffs, which is back behind me. This White Cliffs is quite laggy for some reason, and no one's really sure why. Sanctuary Isle, here we go. There's some starfish. What I can do really quick and sneak on into this home cave. Get on crushing bite. And turn back around. Hmm. Hmm. Well, there's only two here. I'm honestly surprised that some of these have been picked up, because that means that something's been here kind of recently. Anemone. Look for those. It's just the waves on the shore making that weird noise. Most of the only things that'll really ever be out this far are, what's it called? Are the semi-aquatics. Sarco, stego, spino, vampyrus, and Taiwakia, and Thalassodromius too. Yeah, there's actually been something here kind of recently, which is a little concerning. But that's right, I was saving it for a skin. There's a good amount of anemones. There we go. Turtle shell. It's not too bad in this area to do that quest. Sea turtles. One thing I know I'll have to check at some point to reaffirm it to myself basically is if there's fresh water on that island. I'll probably forget to check though. Yeah, something was definitely collecting stuff here at some point recently. And I should just need to check the island really quick. There's a turtle shell right up here. consistent around, and it's also known as Herbie Island by the community to an extent. The herbivores will sometimes swim out here on some servers. Let's see. Yeah, I remember seeing this in some of the old teaser spotlights for the map a long time ago. I don't see any fresh water. It's a bunch of food for herbivores, but I don't see anything to drink. I can do some kind of wacky voices sometimes. I don't know how well I can do too many of them anymore, but
I know I can talk in this voice. This voice I've known how to do for quite a while. You can't silly recall.
of course, that's just a very deep voice. A friend taught me how to do that voice a long time ago. And I also kind of taught myself how to do a Stitch impression from Lilo and Stitch, but I don't know how well I can still do that, and I don't feel like trying right now. Also,
This deep voice.
is the kind of noise that I make as well sometimes. Yeah, that's the weird thing about voices.
The sound kind of comes from breathing in, not so much from breathing out.
Yeah, it actually does come from breathing in. And straight up,
Talking while breathing in can get some very interesting voices.
and all that stuff. I just do that voice a lot because I'm accustomed to it and I find it funny. But I would definitely not recommend trying too hard to do that if you haven't really been taught how. All I gotta say is you kind of have to talk while breathing in. It's definitely tricky to get the hang of it first. Right, off to get the last turtle shell. Turtle shell. Maybe one right here because there's a bunch of branches. That's usually what I look for when I'm looking for turtle shells or shellfish. That's some water. I look for these underwater branches. There we go. 1052, which is enough to unlock that skin at tier 1. Maybe it's a tier 5 for the stream I want to make though. Now I gotta remember the exact number order for the pallets. Also going up here toward golden kelp because the golden kelp quests are generally not hard. The only that's annoying is the shellfish delivery. Even the what's it called? Even the turtle shell collection one, just in the sea, is not bad. I'm just gonna go back to the surface for a second. But yeah, slow down and get some stamina a little bit. Sarco still swims really fast. And in fact, aside from Taiwakia, Sarco is the fastest thing in the water. If you go full speed build, Sarco can easily outmaneuver basically anything. Even Aquabud Spina struggles to keep up with full speed Sarco, with aquatic Sarco. Which is speed Sarco with streamlined hide. I'd also like to mention that using Ripping Bite in the water is really, really, really strong for Sarco, because it does a ton of bleed, and aside from Kai, nothing unofficial can actually sink down in the water to heal the bleed off. It makes Sarco formidable in the open ocean, and in bigger bodies of water too. Sarco's only real weakness in the water is that it's super squishy, but even then, it's so maneuverable. The Sarcos just don't like fighting too much in shallow water. And you have to be careful on land, of course. Oh, that was some lag. But if you have thalassophobia, look away. It is super deep and open right now, so good. I used to have thalassophobia, but this game actually helped me deal with it. Because if I wanted to play Spino, Sarco, or a bunch of the stuff that I just genuinely liked playing, I had to use the water. I had to use deep water on Pandora, specifically the Big Lake, Great Lake. I don't really like the frame jitters. I don't know why they're happening, aside from the fact that I'm in this area of the map. Just this way then. And I should be at Golden Toe. Here's another interesting factoid for you. Most crocodilians, or not most, but quite a few crocodilians have built-in salt glands of some form, which allows them to tolerate ocean water very well. I know saltwater crocodiles are basically known for being oceanic, partly at least, but even crocodiles, American crocodiles, I think one other crocodile from South America and southern tip of North America is also like a brackish or oceanic, partly. And then, of course, Nile crocodiles can swim from, or could swim from Madagascar to Africa for a while, but I think that they're cut off now. And I am pretty sure that Thomasina, which is the false gharial, can also swim in, or can also survive in the ocean for a prolonged period of time. There's a couple others too that I'm probably missing, but these are the big ones that I can think of. There's a ton of anemones right on this little rock. You can easily complete the quest, which is nice. Yeah, it's 150 correctly. Just from the sea. Got it. I do kind of think that the sarco nerfs that are coming next patch are quite harsh, with crushing bite going from a 1 second or 1.5 second cooldown to a 4 second cooldown on the entire head slot, and the loss of ripping bites, crazy bleed. But I do kind of feel that they're warranted considering Sarco can basically one shot anything right now if it has the right conditions. Like if something's sleeping and Sarco lands a fully charged crushing bite with ambush, it just kills it usually. Sarco's biggest downsides are that it's squishy, it's basically worthless on land most of the time, and it's pretty limited in what it can do. So Sarco's damaged, it's like basically cut down by a third if it gets hit before crushing bite with ambush goes off. Maybe just a water reminder to anyone watching. Take a drink. Stretch out your limbs if you can. And then continue with what you're doing. Gotta make sure to stay hydrated and stay loose. You don't want to get like, cramps or anything from sitting in the arena or have your leg going numb, arm go numb. forgot that I had a crushing gun on that button, and I swung too fast for the fish. Yeah, that was like a 1.5 session. It was really nice to bite again. There's a turtle shell, so I just need one more. Alright, there's that. Back to the surface I go for a little bit of air. Oh, it's raining. Neat. And normally, a stormy sea is kind of dangerous, but there's no currents in this game. And crocodiles are basically built to deal with harsh weather. That thing came flying at me out of nowhere. But yeah. One thing that is really interesting is, aside from hatchlings, crocodiles tend to do really, really, really well in storms. And especially American alligators are absolutely crazy after hurricanes. So they'll just dig down into they'll like basically dig down into a gator hole, which is a spot in the riverbank that gators have dug for like basically any reason, and then they'll sit in that while the storm passes. And especially during floods, they can actually move around a lot more. Moving on land for most crocodilians is actually very dangerous, even for some of the more terrestrial ones, just because they're much more exposed and they need to keep themselves hydrated. But whenever there's like a flood in Florida or Texas or anywhere down there with alligators, alligators go crazy and they swim around all over the place. Another thing I'd like to mention is generally a lot of the problem gators, quote unquote, that people have, which are the gators that kind of keep getting too close, tend to be gators that were outed from one of their well, from a group, which is usually they end up being related to the bull or rival males. And so I saw a video a couple days ago on the Orinoco crocodile. Orinoco crocodiles are very endangered crocodilians in South America. They are the biggest predator in South America. They're actually almost as big as Nile crocodiles, surprisingly. And they have a head that is they have a slender snout, but they have a very wide back of their head, similar to gharials, but and telestoma, but they're not nearly as thinly proportioned. They're a little bit closer to a freshwater crocodile actually, and they're super generalists, is what I'd call them, where they'll take basically anything they can fit in their mouth. And funny enough, part of the reason that the caiman population in the Pantanal in Brazil is so high is because Orinoco's were nearly wiped out, and they're no longer in the Pantanal at the moment. They're only in a couple rivers and estuaries. And with conservation, if they actually manage to get back to the Pantanal, then well, it's looking like they're going to get back to the Pantanal because they're actually doing pretty well for a critically endangered species. They're bouncing back really hard. It's just they are actually a threat. Because aside from some of the bigger caiman species like spectacled caiman and especially black caiman, there aren't too many crocodilians in the Pantanal that are a huge threat to people because they're just too small. Orinoco's are, but they don't go after people usually. That might be because they're too rare to actually have like a metric to go after people. But I remember hearing a story at one point where there's a little village on the Orinoco River, which is where most of the Orinoco crocodiles are right now, and there was a couple Orinoco crocs that just kept swimming right up to the floating docks that people lived on. And in fact, some of the bigger ones, especially some of the bulls, kept going onto they basically kept going onto the actual floating docks themselves and right to people's doorsteps, which is quite scary considering Orinoco's are quite large. And one of them was reportedly a 13-foot male, which is a decent size for an Orinoco. That's probably like an 8 to 10 year old male, and he like he had no fear. He came right up to their doorstep, and they actually had to like kind of like frighten him off the dock with like clanging from pots or something. And he did not want to budge for a while. That's another thing too. If there's a big Orinoco on their dock, what are the people supposed to do? They basically have to wait for the Orinoco to decide to move or to try and scare it off. Because you can't exactly, risk getting near that thing. Even still, if they actually get returned to the Pantanal, they're going to be a lot more useful in the environment because right now jaguars are the apex predators, and there's a huge overpopulation of especially black caiman. Black caiman, I think Yaqui caiman and spectacled caiman are all really common in the Pantanal. And Orinoco's, even if they don't permanently live in the Pantanal, even ones that migrate into the Pantanal and then migrate back into the estuaries during the dry season, in the wet season they can help deal with some of the overpopulation that the jaguars are already dealing with. Because black caiman can get like 15 feet ish, I think. Like a large one is considered 15 feet. Orinoco's at adult can easily reach that size. And Orinoco's are also, well, they don't have as strong of a bite compared to their body size as a black caiman because they're small shaped. They still have a pretty good bite. Orinoco's have overall a more massive body. In the video I saw recently on Orinoco, they ended up, it was from a long time ago, but they ended up catching a female Orinoco that was 8 years old and 10 feet long, or 10 foot 10 inches long, which is uh, almost 4 meters, I think, just shy of 4 meters. It's like 3.7 meters, I think. But yeah, I've seen like 18-foot long bull salties and absolute firecracker Nile crocodiles put up less of a fight than that 10-foot Orinoco. Keep in mind, generally among crocodilians, males are larger than females, and at 8 years old is like 8 years old is not a full adult for most crocodilians, especially not for large ones. And crocodilians grow for all their life. And yeah, she was huge for an Orinoco, not for an Orinoco, but she was just a big croc. And one thing I've never seen before is they tied a, a metal noose around her neck to try and pull her up a riverbank. She ended up breaking the metal noose. And I'm not talking she bit it and snapped it, which is a possibility. She shook her head so hard that the metal noose, like not the loop stayed around her neck, but like the actual cord itself broke. Braided metal, like a braided steel cable. That alone was impressive. But after being dragged around behind a boat for a while so they could get her into a position to measure her, she still put up a huge fight. And I was fully impressed considering she was probably half the weight of some of the bigger crocs that I've seen people tackle. And it took 4 people just to like actually keep her from going crazy. Like 4 dudes to just keep her down, which isn't that abnormal, but it's still kind of impressive. Orinoco's are tough. Actually, defense sarco in this game has a head similar to an Orinoco. Just Orinoco's have a Orinoco's don't have the bulbous tip at the end of their snout, and they also have what's it? Well, and they also have a slightly different shaped head, but overall it's similar. Of course, I'm just a baby sarco in this speed build, so it looks more like an actual gharial. Whereas Balance Sarco looks similar to a Tomostoma with a nose bump. But yeah, that Orinoco, she put up a huge fight when they were trying to like basically pull her out of the water to measure her and check the and basically give her like a little bit of a checkup for data collection to see if the area that she was living in was potentially worthy of being a sanctuary for Orinoco's. And I'm not sure if it ever did get there, but I think it was definitely promising considering the fact that she was quite large for her age as an Orinoco, which usually doesn't happen in fragmented populations, especially in crocodilians, and especially in the female crocodilians too. I hit adolescent, nice. That's ambush and nicotine membrane. Just the hard that I can't get yet. But yeah, considering she was completely healthy and actually doing better than you'd expect, I'd say that was a pretty great spot for her. Of course, now we gotta do this light sponge quest, which is kind of annoying because sponges are hard to find, very fragmented, and there aren't that many in this area. Actually, I might just go to a different spot. Now I'm gonna swim through here and out here and go right through the middle of the map. That's the plan. Well, that was some raindrops. But yeah, there's a bunch of crocodilians that are technically critically endangered. You got gharials, you got false gharials, you got orinoco's, you have, I think, a couple of species of caiman that are critically endangered. I believe Cuban crocodiles are pretty rare, like true Cubans, because they've been interbreeding with the American crocodile. What else? There's definitely more Chinese alligators, which are tiny, by the way, are critically endangered. Oh yeah, both of the fishing crocodiles are at least threatened from Africa, and probably should be considered like endangered because they are quite rare and they're legitimately understudied because it's hard to actually get to them. And on top of them living in basically the middle of the jungle for the east, slender snouted or fish eating, because they're called a bunch of different names. The western one is definitely more of a jungle animal, and the eastern one is much rarer, but I think that might just be because it's hard to actually study them. Because not only do they live in relatively remote places, they are very skittish. Even in captivity, fishing crocodiles bolt whenever they see a person, which is good for their overall survival in the wild, to be honest. Because you want crocodilians to be fearful of humans, that they don't so they're not as big of a threat to humans, and therefore less likely to be targeted, and off of that less likely to you know attack and all that, and less likely to be attacked. I ended up reading something a couple months back about crocodiles and trees, and quite a lot of crocodilian species, especially the more shy ones and the more piscivorous ones, excluding gharials, use elevated branches or floating logs and all that when when they when they're sunning themselves. Yeah, they want to sun themselves and to stay up out of the water. It's especially common in East African fish-eating crocodiles or slender-snouted crocodiles, and also freshwater crocodiles from Australia. They'll well, they're more aquatic, and they live well, not more aquatic, but they are much more skittish, and they'll still climb pretty high up trees a lot of the time, and bask in branches, and then jump down into the water when they're threatened. There's a whole bunch of odd crocodilian behaviors that are just understudied, like the fact that quite a few crocodilian species eat fruit quite often. And crocodilians actually have cooperative hunting, which is something that is usually affiliated with social mammals, like wolves or humans or even chimps. But the fact that crocodilians do it is interesting because very few other reptiles are even considered social. Crocodilians themselves, it depends. Most crocodilians are fine on their own, but almost every species will tolerate uh, multiple members or multiple other members of the same species. And in fact, some species like gharials and mudder crocodiles actually live in the same rivers on the same banks. I think mudders are a lot more common up in the more rocky, fast-flowing rivers, and gharials are a lot more common in the sandier banks of the rivers in India and Pakistan and all that. I don't think gharials are in Pakistan anymore, but I could be wrong. I know that they're in India, and I think Nepal is the other spot that they live in. I should know this, but I just have a pretty bad memory for stuff. Yeah, there are several crocodilian species that tend to like cohabitate with each other, and they can cohabitate because of niche partitioning. And the best example is actually, well, the best example to my knowledge is the gharial and the mudder crocodile, where mudders are more of your traditional ambush predator crocodilian that hunts decently large game and are more so the man-eater type, who have gharials that almost exclusively fish and small crustaceans, but will take small animals that are unfortunate to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Oh, this area is a lot more leafy than I remember it being because I had all these phones. I haven't really explored Sharktooth Marsh since the map update. Sarco is definitely probably the best thing for exploring this area because it can go on land unlike Taiwakia, and it gets passive water regained from just swimming in any water. It doesn't have to be fresh water, which is something that the other semi-aquatics don't do. Oh, yeah, you see these here? These right here? These were added a long time ago to the game, right around the same time that modding was added, and they have not had a quest since the. Well, I don't even think they've ever had a quest actually, and their only use was being used for healing for those that could eat them. But mushrooms are no longer edible overall. The only things that can eat mushrooms are from mods. Nothing unofficial can. Anyway, I'm off topic again. Yeah, so there are a lot of extremes on crocodilians. As of present day, the most terrestrial crocodilians are a few species of small caiman. I don't know about Cuvier's dwarf caiman being the most land-based, but I know that they are kind of terrestrial. And I can't remember if it's Cuvier's dwarf caiman or the smooth front caimans that are the most terrestrial crocodilians. Both of them are like less than 4 feet at adult, but they're kind of terrestrial because there aren't as many large predators on land around, and I believe they're also both nocturnal. And then you have basically the exact opposite, which is the Indian gharial. They are almost immobile on land because their legs can't support their body weight, so they can't actually high walk, which is what the sarco is doing right now is high walking, where usually if it's a big animal, you'll see it move kind of like this. This is basically how alligators high walk like that. But high walking is raising the belly off the ground, and gharials actually can't. They have to move kind of like a like a seal on land, where they pull their legs forward and then push. Sea turtles also do the same kind of motion. Oh, there's a lake here now. I did not know that. Yeah, gharials are pretty exclusively aquatic. They still come on land, obviously, to bask, but they very rarely stray far from the water. Even when nesting, they usually don't go far from the water. And then, of course, they go back to. And then, of course, I don't remember Gariel's activity patterns as well as I should, but I believe it's bask for most of the morning, swim around and be active at the height of the day when it's the most hot out, then kind of stay in the water at night because the water's warmer at night than the air usually, but they'll also come out at night, do other activities like nesting, fasting as well sometimes. But that's just the general case for most crocodilians. It's not that abnormal. Okay, here's something else. It'll just be my own footsteps that I'm hearing. Alright. milk cap mushrooms. I don't know where they spawn anymore in here, but oh well. Yeah, crocodilians are interesting. And that's another thing. Currently, it is considered that the most intelligent reptile group is the Varanids, which are monitor lizards, like Komodo dragons, Nile monitors, lace monitors, sanguinas, all that. Also, tegus are part of the Varanid group, I believe. But they convergently evolved to be very similar and are still super smart. But crocodilians are not far behind them, and crocodilians have a lot of behaviors that varanids don't. Now, we haven't seen teaching in crocodilians, but we have seen tool use where crocodilians will sometimes, some species of crocodilians rather, will use sticks to lure birds over to them and then kill them. And they try and pick the stick off their face. And then, of course, you have parental care or basic parental care, which every species of crocodilian cares for hatchlings, and many care for hatchlings for up to for a year or two in total, which is actually better than a lot of birds. Albeit birds grow much faster than crocodilians, but still. And then, of course, you have a couple other things as well that go on, like cooperative hunting, as I stated earlier. There was a documented case of two smaller saltwater crocodiles going on land and chasing a large boar. The boar was too large for the those two salties to take down, but they pushed the boar into a lake, and in that lake was a very large saltwater crocodile that caught the boar and killed it, and they all shared the kill. It's not cooperative hunting like the way that wolves do it, but it is still definitely cooperative hunting, which is interesting. Then, of course, there's the whole crocodiles eating fruit, climbing trees, doing all kinds of weird stuff that no one would expect. Alligators in zoos and parks legitimately climbing all on top of each other to get out of enclosures. All that crazy stuff. And I think people definitely underestimate a lot of animals for some reason. Crocodiles being one of them. People tend to think, oh, they have very short legs. They got generally weak limbs. There's no way that they can climb stuff. You'd be surprised. Most alligators can easily climb stuff they can easily climb stuff like a third taller than their own body length, especially fences. Of course, there are some crocodilians like gharials and especially large salties that cannot climb because they are too heavy or don't have the limb structure to do so in case of the gharial. But there's all kinds of weird little things that happen with crocodilians. There's a reason that the aquatic ambush predator kind of body plan that crocodiles have today has been around since like the Triassic, if not before that. Triassic and Carboniferous periods, which is like off the top of my head. like 300, 350 million years ago, just about, I think. There's a lot of stuff that happens with with crocodilians and their body plan. Whole bunch of weird evolution. Rest of it didn't take fall damage, so I was not looking at my screen for a second. Yeah, evolution has done weird things, and there are a couple body plans overall, like the four-flippered locomotion of plesiosaurs and pliosaurs that have kind of disappeared, but overall, a lot of body plans keep coming back over time, and the crocodilian body plan is definitely one of them. First, it was well, first it kind of belonged to amphibians, that whole semi-aquatic ambush predator niche, but crocodilians basically perfected it, and modern crocodilians have been around since, depending on the group of village, which are gharials and false gharials. Um, what else? Alligatorids, I think, which are alligators and caiman. I think that's the name of that group. And then, of course, the true crocodilians, which are the true crocodiles, which are it's like the saltwater crocodile, Nile crocodile, Cuban crocodile, all that. They all evolved at different times. Alligators evolved probably, true alligators are evolved probably around 90 million years ago in the Cretaceous period. Gharials, I think, evolved around 100, 110 million years ago. And then the newest one are the actual crocodiles, which I think evolved sometime between 70 and 50 million years ago. And funny enough, the one of the only surviving species from the actual crocodilia that was around before the KPG extinction at the end of the Cretaceous was called Borealisuchus, which is either a true alligator or a very close relative of alligators, and they were pretty diverse before the KPG extinction, and their diversity still continued after it and actually expanded a little bit because they weren't very large crocodilians like many of the others that kind of perished, but they were also big enough to be immediately like an apex predator after the KPG extinction, and I think it was I think they persisted for another 20 odd million years after the KPG extinction event before finally going extinct. Borealisuchus lived quite a while, and for a time they were actually an apex predator, which is pretty cool. And funny enough, Borealisuchus, uh, it's most famously, aside from being kind of known for being a true survivor of a major mass extinction that we can actually track, it's also known from the name Saurian, where you can find them in the water. Boreosuchus was actually not the largest crocodilian in Hell Creek, though, which is where Saurian's based. I forget what it was called. I think it was called Champsosaurus, I think, which was Champsosaur, a close relative of crocodilians that resembled javelids with long, slender snouts and very streamlined, aquatically adapted bodies. Just Champsosaurus probably was like 15-20% bigger than the largest modern gharials. So it was probably like 25 feet ish, I think. Maybe a little bit less, give or take. It was in the same ballpark of like 18 plus feet. And I do know that there was one other group of crocodilians aside from the main three that survived at least a couple million years after the KPG extinction. But they were weird oceanic crocodilians, and I don't remember what the name of the group is or much about them because I just don't have the best memory. I really cannot see the rocks at all in this area. Oh, and I can definitely hear the rain again. I don't think I've ever been able to find all the quest items in Volcano Bay. I'm going the wrong way. Are these rocks? If I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Crocodiles, modern crocodiles are still living fossils technically, but there are no species around today that have been around for uh, all that long for crocodilians. Their ancestors have been around for a while, but evolution always changes things over time. Look, it's a shark. There are actually quite a few things here for gifts from the sea. The turtle shells and the shellfish all over the place. Yeah, just going this way. Yeah, evolution does kind of wacky things to uh, animals and other organisms over time. A good example of weird evolution over time is acacia trees and a couple of the big herbivores in Africa. Acacia trees have evolved a chemical signal that they can produce, and that chemical signal is carried by the wind, and it causes all other acacia trees, including the one that's producing it, to produce kind of mild toxin, not mild toxin, but a toxin that makes them basically inedible. And giraffes have evolved a way to deal with it, for sure. Giraffes not only deal with the large thorns that acacias have with their prehensile tongues, but they also, you know, but the giraffes know to not eat any acacia trees that are downwind of the one that they ate from, and they also know to leave the grove after eating all the time to wait for the acacia trees to calm down. I don't know if elephants can also perfectly detect it or not. That's another sarco somewhere. But yeah, making a lot of noise there, aren't you? That sarco sounds small. It can't be that small if it's out in the ocean, but you never know. They could have just immediately sprinted from hunters to get to the ocean. I'm just barely into adolescent. Just trying to get some air while I can. I can see some little sponges. There's a lot of sponges right here. Yeah, evolution does weird things. I know that there's even weirder kinds of things from evolution, just the acacia tree, giraffe kind of plant and herbivore relationship is the first one that really came to mind. That's a waste stone, okay. It's kind of hard to see the sponges in this area because of all the seagrass. There's a bunch right here. Wait, 10 more, so I'm kind of getting close to being done with this quest, which is good. There's Tom Cave, just up there, okay. No big deal then. Mm-hmm. Lake sponges, lake sponges. Should be some just right over here somewhere. There's a couple more. I need only a handful more. Alright, here's the very last three that I need. Yeah, I figured there's no other quest in Flyer's Bluff because the other quests that are here are up on the cliffs and only flyers can get to them, so they'd save them for everything else, which is good. Just gonna get some oxygen and some stamina, then continue heading up toward the home cave. Is this red? Is this called red kelp? I don't remember what this. I think it might be called red kelp. I don't remember entirely. Don't remember too often. Starfish. Ooh, that shouldn't be too terrible then. Don't need too many starfish, and usually starfish aren't that hard to find. I will say though, I think that there are a couple of major issues with the aquatic areas on this map, especially the oceans, and more so it's just there's like the environments are cool, but there's like no collectible items compared to most of the rest of the map, and a lot of the aquatic quests are a lot more tedious. That and you're not going to see too many semi-aquatics out in the open ocean because aside from sarco, they have increased thirst drain across the board. Counterparts doesn't have too much thirst drain, but it's also a herbivore and it has to eat plants too. It doesn't have to eat plants, but I'm telling you what I'm saying, where it's just weird. And of course, you have Suco and Spino that have increased thirst drain and both kind of struggle. Well, Suco is more so meant to switch between land and water a lot, I think. Whereas Spino is definitely faster in the water, more aquatically inclined, but still isn't all that great for the water or land. Sarco is pretty bad for land, but he's pretty good for the water. And Sarco has infinite water or infinite thirst when it's in the water, just like Kaiwakia. Maybe when they add more stuff, like namely Urhorinosaurus, which is a sword-billed ichthyosaur, and Tylosaurus, which is a large mosasaur. You'll see more aquatics. Until then, I don't think that we're going to see too many. Also, I legitimately don't think that there's any real questing or quest items in this whole area. just because it's so, overfilled with basically nothing. A red kelp forest. I don't think I've ever found a single quest item in this area. How am I supposed to? Good. Well, I only need one more upgrade. Okay. So I'm just gonna go get this one upgrade then. Wherever I can find it. I can probably have it here. So look away if you have philosopher bit, because this is another big open structured ocean. I I used to have philosopher, and as I said before, this game helped me with it. I still definitely do have like a mild fear of like stuff that I can't see, but it's not as like almost panicky as it used to be for me. Oh, yep, we've already found some port chains right up here. Already got some anemones. There's some starfish down here too. Red kelp forest. Is this enough? I think I might need one more group of starfish. And I need one more group. There we go. I can figure out what the correct colors are in a minute. We're restarting in 1 hour. I'm just gonna finish up some of these quests. There's a ton of anemones in this area. Well, more than enough for a group quest. Light sponge. No thanks. That's gonna take way too long. Just it's gonna be hidden really well. Right, and back to the home table I go. Look away again if you have thalassophobia. Going over the big underwater like, chasm again. Okay, up at the surface, getting some oxygen back. And some stamina. Okay, yep, it's right down here. Just slow swim because I want to keep my stamina decent for when I go into the home cave. And yeah, I'm going to call it here. Thank you to anyone that popped into the stream, watches the VOD, watches the video. I appreciate it a lot. This will likely be uploaded on YouTube pretty soon. I have a Discord now if you want to join. I play games like this all the time. I usually stream Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I start between like 10:30 and 1, depending on the day, depending on when I wake up. Thank you. Take care and be kind.